Well, listening to Professor Sylvester, I thought it can't be me he's speaking about, must be a brother or a nephew. But it's me, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the words spoken. You are in the top 3 economics faculties in Europe and number 24 in the world. And that is an outstanding achievement. And I have to admit, I was not aware of that achievement, that you were number 3 already on the European list. And I can only hope that you achieve your objective of entering the top 20 soon. And I see that as a starting point, of course, for further progress. As for me, ladies and gentlemen, as for me, I'm especially grateful to receive an honorary doctorate from this renowned Catholic university, born as a Roman Catholic, raised as a Roman Catholic, and still being a Roman. Yeah, that's rather exceptional nowadays, isn't it? But still being a Roman Catholic, I think it's appropriate to start with a confession. It's not a mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, but it is a confession. At the start of my professional career, I was asked to become an academic here at Tilbug University. And I vividly remember the long discussion I had in a certain afternoon with Theo Stevers on whether or not I should join his faculty. I hesitated, honestly speaking. I hesitated for a while, but eventually I declined the job. And at first, and I think you can understand that, at first I therefore sensed a slight feeling of guilt, concerning the honor that is being conferred upon me today. To receive academic recognition exactly from this university, where with a little twist of fate I could have spent my working life. But then on further reflection, and normally I think it's on further reflection that you change your ideas. On further reflection, I started to like the idea. Although I did not become a full-time academic, I've always kept a strong interest in scientific research. In fact, I believe that throughout the years, my policy work has benefited greatly from scientific input. And therefore, I've accepted my honorary doctorate with really great delight, and I feel extremely honored. Thank you very much indeed, and I would like to express my special thanks also to Professor Eifinger. What I would like to do in the next 10 to 15 minutes is the following. I would like to dedicate my brief address to the interaction between economic science and policy making. In my view, the interaction between science and policy has brought tremendous progress in both fields. Admittedly, not everybody agrees on this. Several observers notice an increasing gap between highly formalized theory and the practical needs of policy making. And amongst these observers, also professors from this university. I would like to mention in this context, for example, Lans Bovenberg and also Erik van Damme in one of their articles. An illustration of such a perceived gap in my own field of monetary economics is given in a recent overview paper by Gregory Moncrief, who himself has been an academic as well as chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors in Washington. He concludes, and this is a very frustrating conclusion to my mind, he concludes that recent developments in macroeconomic modeling have had, and now I start to quote, close to zero impact on practical policy making, unquote. So, as I said, this is a rather frustrating conclusion. Another example has been given by my British colleague and friend Mervyn King with respect to modern communication strategies. He argues that the success of such strategies in stabilizing inflation expectations at a low level is not yet fully understood from a scientific perspective. And his claim is therefore that monetary policy is ahead of economic science in that respect. I don't know whether, honestly speaking, I don't know whether I agree with him. Perhaps I know I do not agree with him. Let me be clear on these points. There are indeed, as we all know, limits on the extent to which policy judgment can be based on science. In almost any policy decision, experience, intuition, Fingerspitzengefühl, or whatever name we can put to it, plays a crucial role. Perhaps the role of these elements has even increased in recent times. The outside world has become increasingly international, and the economic system has become more complex, perhaps too complex to understand it in all its dimensions. And this is what Alan Greenspan, for example, used to say time and again. Let me give you just one example. At the Nederlandsche Bank, it's our job to assess the pass-through of the credit market crisis of the past year onto the real economy. The scientific approach would be to rely on model estimates. But unfortunately, the degree of uncertainty that always surrounds such estimates jumps to even higher levels in times of financial stress. And this illustrates, to my mind, that our judgment can't be based on science alone. One of the reasons, by the way, being that developments in the real world are often outpacing scientists and policymakers. Basically, this is what recently happened in the financial sector. Innovation supported by technological process outpaced risk management in banks, outpaced regulators, outpaced supervisors. But the question, of course, is, does this imply that there is a gap between science and policy? And I don't think so. After all, our research department has responded, and the same reaction came from the research departments of other central banks. Our research department has responded to the gap in our knowledge by shifting its attention to economic interactions under extreme events. I would therefore rather stress a natural interaction between science and policy than the existence of a gap.